Instant analysis. The judge joins us, Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst. And also on the line with us is Adam Lashinsky. Adam calling in from California, the Fortune executive editor. He's also a Fox Business contributor. Adam, stay there on hold, if you will, for a moment. I need a minute or two to talk to the judge about some of these legal questions before we come to you on some of the company questions. And, you know, Judge, this executive order that the president has now signed, he said at the beginning of his remarks there that, and this all started, by the way, when Twitter fact-checked one of his tweets. Obviously not happy about that. Now he signs this executive order where he says Twitter is not a neutral public platform. So it seems as if he's trying to take away a liability shield from a social media company like Twitter based on the fact that it is required to be a neutral public platform. Is it?
No. It is not required to be a neutral public platform. Now, the world is very different today in 2020 than it was in 1996, when this section of the Communications Decency Act that gave platforms like Twitter and Facebook in their infancy in those years the liability protection. But one of the president's favorite Supreme Court opinions, I happen to like the opinion myself, Citizens United expressly says that corporations have the freedom of speech. So the president's executive order, which I have not seen, I don't think any of us has a copy of it yet, and the editorial comments by the Attorney General are totally out of line. The government cannot censor speech, it cannot interfere with free speech, it can't threaten free speech, and it can't chill free speech. Chilling occurs when the government engages in behavior that causes the speaker to think 2 or 3 times before he expresses his opinion. Supreme Court has condemned all of that. And Attorney General Barr should have revealed, for all of his negative comments about Section 230, it was just upheld by a unanimous panel of the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, which is a couple of blocks from where his office is, last week. So his portrayal of it as weak and undermined and out of touch and grossly misused and out of proportion is not shared by the judiciary. The judiciary decides what these statutes mean, not the Attorney General and not the president.
So if this executive order is challenged, and the president has said that he will pursue legislation on this topic as well, that's a separate issue. But if this executive order is challenged, as the president just moments ago predicted it will be, how do you predict that challenge will go?
Well, the executive order is essentially toothless. Again, I haven't read it, but it is a wish list on the part of the president and those who drafted it for him that they would have the authority to observe and manipulate the inner workings of Twitter and Facebook and the other platforms. To the extent that they would do something to harm Twitter, they'd be enjoined from doing so by the first court that looked at it. To the extent that he's telling the Attorney General, form this commission, investigate that, well, there's no harm until the Attorney General files a document in court and accuses somebody of something. So I don't think the executive order goes away right away.
One more legal question, then I'll go to Adam Lashinsky on the companies and how they might be viewing this out in Silicon Valley. On the legislation, as I said, the president says he's going to pursue legislation. We don't know exactly what that might entail, but he was asked about it in those remarks. And President Trump says one of the things we may do is change or totally remove 230, referring, as you've done multiple times, to the Section 230 of the 1996 law, Communications Decency Act. So how would that work, and what might the ramifications of that be if it were to be, removed in legislation down the line?
Well, if it's removed in legislation, then it's removed. I mean, legislation, as we all know, can only come about by Congress. I doubt that will happen between now and Election Day. If President Trump is reelected, and if people that share his views, if the Republican Party controls the House as well as the Senate in 2021, they'll probably have a shot at removing the legislation. But if Section 230 that grants immunity to the bulletin board, to the poster of it, is removed, then the president should be careful what he wishes for, because then Twitter and Facebook will be forced to police their own postings, and then they can remove whatever postings they want to remove, including those from Donald Trump.
That's a very interesting angle on all of this. And let me take that to Adam Lashinsky, because what the judge brings up. I mean, we're a long way from getting there, but I think it is worth pointing out that some Democrats have expressed reservations about this section of the law, including, I believe, in past comments, former Vice President Joe Biden. So is there a nervousness building up out where you are, Adam, in Silicon Valley about how all this ends up playing out?
Oh, absolutely, and well before today. So everything, I've been following this Section 230 issue very carefully. Everything the judge said is 100% accurate. The Facebook and Twitter and Google, YouTube, and others are very concerned about losing this exemption from liability. By the way, they have as the judge put it, they are treated like a bulletin board. You want to put something up on their bulletin board? That's not their problem. That's your problem. Guess who does have to be concerned about what happens on their broadcast platform? Media organizations. So Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, they are not treated like media organizations. What the president is trying to do is to say, essentially, you need to be held to the same standards. The judge is exactly correct. They could then say, well, you know what? We don't want this stuff on our platform. They don't really want to do that because that's not good for business. So they're very concerned about losing that exemption.
And what about a bigger picture issue, Adam, about whether, you know, the discussion that we have been having for months about whether these companies will be subject to antitrust legislation, whether that comes back up. I mean, the president, he literally said there moments ago, this is tantamount to being a monopoly, I believe, in reference to Twitter. Yeah. I will point out that Charlie Gasparino reported on our network late in the afternoon that the Justice Department's hired outside litigators getting set for an antitrust lawsuit against Google. So what about that as kind of a bigger picture, way of encapsulating all of this?
That's absolutely right. I mean, my sense here, also without having read the executive order, is that the president, in various ways, is trying to throw the kitchen sink at big tech. And I just want to, one thing the judge said is right. That can't happen quickly. It doesn't mean, however, that he can't get it started quickly. He can. He can make a lot of noise quickly. And I just want to repeat that this debate didn't start today. Others on both sides of the aisle have been having this debate for the past several years, and the volume has been getting louder. Obviously, it got a lot louder today.
Yeah, one more comment. I'll give it to the judge before we wrap up this discussion. As Adam said, the president can and has made a lot of noise, and that's kind of your point, right? That's all this really is, that there's no legal kind of meat or muscle behind all the noise the president's making on this, for now at least.
For now, and again, not having read the executive order, it is almost inconceivable that a presidential executive order could alter legislation. Remember, the president took an oath to uphold and enforce all federal law, including this one, including those that he hates.
Yeah, right.
Right. All right, guys, thank you. We appreciate it. Adam calling in from out west, and the judge, always good to see you, sir. And as we cover the breaking news, again, we have not been given the language, I don't believe the judge, as the judge has pointed out, on this executive order, just been told the president signed it after he spoke to reporters in the Oval Office. Melissa.